So the first one, what comes first? Exponents. There's no parentheses. So we check out, the exponent hits the 10, the exponent hits the 5. So this is 10 times 10. This is 5 times 5. So rewriting it, we get, this is 100 minus 100 divided by 25 times 2 minus 1. So rewriting everything with just that one step done. Next, again, the way I see this is I've got a term or an island separated by another term, separated by another term. And so what I need to do is figure out what each one of these is worth before I start combining them. 101 are already done, but this one we got to figure out. And so what order do we do it in?
Left to right.
Yeah, from left to right. So we would do 100 minus 25 would be 4 times 2, and so this would be 8. So now we get 100 minus 8 minus 1. And then with addition and subtraction, you kind of got two options. Either you could, no pressure here, two different options are correct. You could either
Left to right.
left to right, or my little acronym is, no one's saying it, you could small it up. Right, so you could either do left to right, so this is 92 minus 1, which is 91, or you could turn this into 100 plus negative 8 plus negative 1, and then go, that's 100 plus negative 9, which is 91. So lots of different ways to approach this, yeah.
My question is, how did you know to, like, kind of how you put like the little green circles around the numbers?
Yeah,
How did you know to do that?
Yeah, so you don't have to write that, but for me, that's super helpful because the mistakes I see people make the most is what clumps together and how you would never, ever, ever, ever subtract before doing division and multiplication. And so the idea of what a term is, which we talked about yesterday, is you have these chunks, these terms, that are separated by plus or minus signs, and then you have another chunk, and all that is a bunch of anything, numbers, variables, all multiplied or divided together, and I mean, that's like super glue. I mean, that comes as a chunk when you multiply or you divide, and so they're all stuck together. And then all of a sudden, there's this big open space of a minus sign, and then another term. But it's because they're stuck together with those multiplication and division signs. Good question. Okay, so this one, there seemingly are parentheses, except if we do parentheses first, there's nothing inside the parentheses to do. So okay, check, we did parentheses. Next, exponents. So we see what the exponent applies to. It applies to the parentheses. Here, it applies to the parentheses. So this is 5 times parentheses squared minus 4 times parentheses squared. Doesn't even matter what's in there. Okay, so that's negative 3 squared, negative 3 squared. So that's 5 times 9, minus 4 times 9. Right, just having done the exponents. And then again, we see that this is a chunk of multiplication and division minus a chunk of multiplication and division. So we would always do those first, and we would never subtract 9 minus 4. So we get 5 times 9 is 45, minus 4 times 9 is 36. Subtracting those, we get. And it is totally okay if you didn't do great on this quiz. That just means you need to put in extra time right now. You need to put in extra effort right now. And this is the time to catch it because you have not received a single grade yet. And just as an announcement, the end of this week is the last day to drop. Usually it's like 2 weeks, but if you do it in terms of fraction of a course, last day to drop the course without getting a W on your transcript. And then you have weeks and weeks, like 4 more weeks if you were to drop it with a W. For that, of course, just as an announcement. So you don't have your first test or quiz until next Wednesday. So I mean, you're going into it, you know, with a full commitment or kind of loose. So, all right, this one. What do we start with? Yeah, exactly. Because we go parentheses, and one of the hints I gave you, other than there are implied parentheses, is when you have parentheses inside of others, you can't do the bigger one yet because you don't know what this one is. So you always start with the inside and work out. Okay, so we'll start with this. How would we do 2 minus 3 cubed? It's a totally new PEMDAS in there. So what do we do first?
Exponent.
Yeah, exponents. So we go, okay, the cubed applies only to the 3. Common mistake people just make quickly is 3 to the third is 9, but actually it's 3 times 3 times 3, so it's 27. So we get 2 minus 27 is negative 25. So rewriting everything exactly the way it is, except this is now a negative 25. Looks like that. Did I say something wrong? So next, what will we do?
4 times negative 25.
Yeah, right, because we start with the parentheses, but out of this, what comes first, subtraction or multiplication? We see one chunk minus a chunk, so we go, okay, this is in parentheses 11 minus, and then 4 times negative 25 is negative 100. Right, and then what's 11 minus negative 100? Okay, okay. So it's 11 minus negative 100? It's the same thing as? Well, how would we get 111? It's the same thing as? Yeah, so we change this minus a negative to plus a positive, and then it's just 11 plus 100, yeah?
I did negative 4 times negative 25, which gave me
Yeah.
positive, it's the same thing.
It's the same thing, all you did was this motto, you did it first. So when you had 11 minus 4 times negative 25, you could either keep 11 minus that, or you could say it's 11 plus this.
Yeah.
So yeah, it doesn't matter either way, you'll get 11 plus 100 as a result either way, whether you motto first or last. And that's that, like, math is actually way more open than people perceive it to be. So here's 111 divided by 37. I have no idea, calculator, boop, 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 and it comes out to be 3, right? 3, yeah, comes out to be 3. Okay, you can always use a calculator. Just on a test, you can't use a graphing calculator or a cell phone, but you can always use a scientific calculator on every homework, on every quiz, on every test. Okay, so don't think of that as a crutch. Remember, I think when we were in elementary school, teachers used to say, like, you won't be carrying a calculator around with you all the time, right? Like now, I don't even have to touch my calculator. I just say, okay, Google, like, and I just ask it, like, what does this equation look like? And I say it with my mouth, and it's like, and it even speaks to me. It's like, that equation looks like this. It has zeros at here and here, and x-intercepts at here. And I have a program, Wolfram Alpha, that like graphs 3D for me on my phone. So it's like, yeah, I have a very, very, very nice calculator in my pocket at all times. So yeah, so what will we do next here? Yeah, we would do the parentheses first, making sure that we would never, ever, ever touch any one part of the top and have it affect any one part of the bottom until we have simplified completely the group that is the top. So never could you say, I see a 5 here and a 5 here, that nothing, no comment, no way to cancel, okay? So yeah, let's work on the top. So first we could simplify this parentheses, and this one, we could motto, but there's no simplifying the parentheses. So negative 5 times 5 minus 3 times negative 3 over negative 13 minus negative 5. Okay, so we did the parentheses. What would come next after parentheses then? There are no exponents. Yeah, multiplication, division. We go from left to right, except in this case there is no division anyways. So it's just a chunk minus a chunk. So this becomes negative 25 minus negative 9 all over negative 13 minus negative 5. Again, you don't need that parentheses, it's just mathematically you can't have two signs next to each other, so that's why they write it. And then we would, yeah, exactly, keep change, your motto, we would change this to plus a positive, and what's negative 25 plus 9? Yeah, because it's really 25 minus 9 is 16, and then, which were there more of? There were more negatives, so that's negative. On bottom, same thing. we're adding opposite signs, so 13 minus 5 is 8, and there were more negatives, so -8. And then finally, we could think of this as reducing a fraction, or since it works out evenly, we could just think of it as division. So -16 divided by -8 is 2, or you can think about it as reducing a fraction and you would get 2 over 1, which is also 2. This is good practice. Exactly the type of questions that will be on the test next Wednesday and Thursday, or Thursday. All right, 66, what would we do first? We would do the exponent first. So we check the exponent, what does it affect? It only affects the 5. So now we write 30 divided by 25, because 5 times 5 is not 10. People slip up every now and then, that's not a mistake people usually make on purpose, but it happens. Okay, and then what would we do next? Get y. Right. So remember y. We do 7 minus 12 then.
Divide 7 minus 12 with 30. Like a bracket with 25.
Yeah, why?
Because it's being divided.
Yeah, I mean, and so there's lots of ways to think about it. But for me, the way I think about it is these horizontal lines imply parentheses, whether it's a fraction, whether it's a square root, whether it's long division, whatever horizontal line there is, it means everything above is a group, everything below is a group. But you could think of it as you can't divide 25 by 7 minus 12, you have to simplify it before you can figure out what that is. So yeah, 30 divided by 25 over -5 minus -9. And what do we do next? Lots of options here. Not one right way to do it. Okay, so what do you mean about that? Are you right there?
30 with negative 5.
Yeah, so if we want to divide a fraction, we would go, okay, that's, so I'm using that pen. We go, this is 30 times, and we flip the fraction over. Again, there's lots of different choices here. 5 other people could have 5 other great steps there that you could have done. So that's not the only one. Alright, what will be next? Again, I see at least 3 different choices here.
The 30 over 1 divided by 5 and 25.
You can totally do that. Does anybody else have another one? I'm not saying that's wrong, I just get multiple ideas here. So put 30 over 1, and because it's multiplication, you can simplify.
Could you divide 5 by 25?
Yeah, you could just divide 5 and 25 and simplify that fraction. You could also over here, motto this, why have minus and negative, have plus and positive, right? So all 3 of those things are great next steps. So I don't want you to think, if you're not doing the exact step that we're doing right now, that you're wrong. Okay, lots of choices here. Okay, so bringing this up here, I'm going to go ahead with Marissa's idea and just simplify first. So this is 30 over 1, oops, it was times, sorry. 30 over 1 times, and just reducing this fraction by 5, this becomes negative 1 over 5, and then plus 9. And again, this entire time we've been doing this, I see this chunk minus this chunk, this chunk minus this chunk, this chunk minus this chunk. And so this term of multiplication and division always stays by itself, so we would never add these 2 first. It's not tempting with a fraction, but it can be tempting in other situations. So yeah, let's multiply these. Since it's multiplication, we can cancel. Dividing both of these by 5, we get this, and so we get this is 6 over 1 times negative 1 over 1 plus 9, or negative 6 plus 9, which is, right? Alright. So no surprises, that's what I expect of you as we go forward. We're gonna go over some homework next, so you guys can ask whatever questions you want, we'll spend some time on that. I'll give you a little time to work on 1.8, just to get your hands on it while it's fresh, we just did this. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna start chapter 2.